Hello, all you overly confident teenagers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
What percentage of teenagers are in the audience? You should check that.
I suspect
stats.
it's pretty low.
Yeah, probably.
This show is 30 years old, so... this is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast in the universe. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Yo.
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9, Season 6, Episode 22, Valiant. Alternate title, Troubled Waters.
Oh, okay, clever. Yeah.
I wasn't super proud of that, but... We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode, but not after this episode, so it is safe to watch along with us if this is your first experience with Star Trek DS9, but no other spoiler promises are made. Did you finish watching Penguin?
No, I haven't caught up still.
Okay, I won't spoil that. Besides, all the people listening already know what I'm talking about anyway. So
Man, did Penguin die? That would have been unexpected.
I won't say anything. They're like, that aired like a month ago. How is that a spoiler? But Valiant originally aired May 6, 1998. It was written by Ronald D. Moore and directed by Michael Vehar.
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a little bit.
Oh yeah? When was the last time we saw him?
I believe it was Rocks and Shoals, but let me...
Okay, so earlier, beginning of the season.
He did 7 episodes of Deep Space Nine, and the most recent, Rocks and Shoals, Season 6,
Right.
Episode 2. There you go.
And Sarah Lofton is in this episode.
Yep, finally.
It's an episode all about Jake, so...
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to not find Sarah Lofton in any scene in this episode.
Right.
Although another regular cast member once again does not appear.
Yep, Chief O'Brien.
I assume he must be off filming a movie or something.
Yeah, he must be on a movie because, we haven't seen him. We keep not seeing him. So.
Yeah, and I went out and looked at his IMDb because, this aired May 98. And so I was like, okay, what could he have been doing at this time to be gone for so long? And so he has smaller parts in several movies around this time, but the one that's big that has him in a starring role is called Claire Dolan, where he is one of the top 3 billed actors along with Vincent D'Onofrio and Katrin Cartledge.
Oh.
But it can't be that he was filming because that movie also came out in May of 98. So I got to look further down the list. And there's several things that I've never heard of that he has not as huge role in. This Is My Father, October 22nd, and Vig are all movies that come out in 1998 later. So I looked into 99, and there he did play a fairly good role in Mystery Alaska, which may have filmed in Alaska, and maybe that explains
oh, sure.
the stars in this movie were Russell Crowe, Burt Reynolds, and Hank Azaria. So he's got some good actors in there. But
I wonder if did you look at Mystery Alaska Wikipedia, because they usually have the when it was shot and stuff in there.
I did bring it up, and there was nothing. I even Googled after I found nothing in the Wikipedia entry. Where was when was Mystery Alaska shot? And there's a section of IMDb called what was it? Hold on, now I have to Google it again. Where was Mystery Alaska filmed? Yeah, there's a section called Filming and Production, and there wasn't a lot. Okay, actually, I'm sorry. There is information on here. I must have missed it the first time. The filming dates on IMDb are January 22nd, 98 through April 18th, 98. and
Okay,
it
so
all
that
was
lines
filmed
up.
in Canada. So
All
that
right.
would have been pretty close to this, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
He
totally...
plays the mayor of Mystery Alaska, Mayor Scott Pitcher.
Oh, nice. I think we cracked the case.
Yep, seems like it.
Because that definitely sounds like the time when these episodes were probably being filmed. So, in fact, you can look on Memory Alpha and also see the filming dates, can't you?
Can you? Let's see here. What does it got?
We're not talking about this episode until we get this figured out, listeners.
Some of them have filming dates, and some of them I feel like don't. I think. Let's see. Video release date. I'm not seeing anything, but I might just be missing it. First aired, production order, production number. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think we've got a pretty solid case that's what he was doing during these episodes. So.
Well, and apparently he's just in a bunch of movies in 98 and into 99, so, I mean, he could have been filming more than one at some point.
Yeah, he could have been doing lots of movies.
But yeah, I was looking down the list, I'm like, what movie would he be, like, out of LA and unable to, like, make it in for any filming of Deep Space Nine over, like, a several-week period? And so, that's the one that stuck out.
Mm-hmm. I think we should cancel the In the Pale Moonlight podcast and just dedicate a podcast to that. No, it's too late. I didn't get to do my troll thing of
coming up with something crazy to substitute. Yeah.
Doing a long string of specials when we should have been doing the In the Pale Moonlight review.
I wondered when the episode came out. I was just like, oh well, okay. I guess we just went for it.
Yeah, that idea just never gelled, and now I feel bad. But all right, this episode. So what happens this episode? So. It's a busy day at the bar as Quark runs around cracking eggs into glasses and making fizzes and froths and whatever. Odo stops by and asks if the drink replicator is broken. Quark says that it can't be broken because he would have put in a service request. And Chief O'Brien would have assigned Rom to do it. And Rom would have assigned Nog to do it. And it would be fixed by now. But something about his tone of voice makes me suspect he's being sarcastic.
Just a hint, yeah.
Dax comes by and also asks if the replicator is broken, but she's here to help. Apparently, Nog did her a favor last week, so this week she's filling in for him while he's on a trip to Ferenginar.
Yeah, she says like he got a chance to go to Ferenginar, and then when we find out later, it's like Starfleet ordered him to Ferenginar. These are not the same thing, and he shouldn't need to call in a favor to have someone cover his shift if he is on an official Starfleet mission to the Grand Nagus. Like, that's kind of messed up.
Maybe someone's like, maybe they tried pitching it to him as like a vacation or something, and they're like, oh, while you're down there, give this to the Nagus.
That's apparently how Jake pitched it, like, yeah, I want to take a vacation to Ferenginar.
Right. But yeah, Dax gets to work fixing the replicator, much to Quark's horror, as he believes this kind of work is beneath Dax. You're in love, realizes Odo after 6 seasons finally.
It is a little bit weird that like the chief science officer on the station is here to do the like job that like once again, does Chief O'Brien have anyone who works for him? Like, this is crazy.
I mean, I'm sure she can fix a replicator.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's kind of in the same way that I can fix a copy machine. Like, I can kind of like, muddle my way through it and figure it out.
I feel like Dax is having some sort of identity crisis. Last week, she just really didn't want to do science. And this week, she's like making excuses to do like the most menial of engineering labor. She's like, oh man, I don't know that I want to be chief science officer of anything anymore. What else is out there for me?
So you think she's actually mulling a secret transfer over to engineering?
Yeah, maybe.
And this is maybe her realizing not to do that?
I mean, after how disgusting that replicator is when she gets in there, absolutely.
Like, why is there like Play-Doh in here?
This is where she's like, oh, never mind.
So yeah, but Quark is like, yeah, whatever, shut up, go away, which Odo does. Right after pointing out that Quark was making a silken sunrise instead of a sylvan surprise. So Quark dumps the drink and looks ruefully over at Dax fixing his replicator. Whether or not she is successful, we never find out, because that is the end of this story.
Yep, there goes the B story for the episode.
We got Dax, Odo, and Quark into the episode, so mission accomplished.
It's good to know that Quark can tend bar even without the replicator.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a pro. He's a professional.
He has all of, like, the same ingredients that you'd need to mix any drink on hand. He just never uses them because he uses the replicator. So those bottles just always sit behind the bar gathering dust until this happens.
I bet with the frequency with which replicators break, it's probably a necessity, so.
Where do you get that egg? Actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, that's
Did
true.
you go, like, maybe you got that out of a different replicator? Because I assume they don't have fresh eggs sitting around in a refrigeration unit somewhere.
I don't know. Maybe he replicates them like a dozen at a time or something.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah, well, I don't know what he's doing, just like dumping like whole eggs into people's drinks, though. But I mean, I've heard of people drinking beer with eggs. But...
it's probably some alien egg. It's like an egg from an alien chicken that tastes like candy or something, or like provides all 100% of your daily value of all nutrients.
I mean, a good whiskey sour has an egg white in it, but that just seems like a weird drink choice. Anyway, meanwhile at Starbase somewhere, 257 or something, Nog boards a runabout carrying a weird pizza box looking thing, which he says is a diplomatic message from the Federation Council to the Grand Nagus, to be hand-delivered by the only Ferengi in Starfleet. Jake Sisko is there and he wants to get a peek at the message, but Nog won't let him. Jake theorizes it's a proposal for an alliance. Nog reminds Jake that Jake said he wasn't coming along on this trip as a reporter. And Jake insists, no, I just want to visit Ferenginar and see the sights. So
the rain and the muck.
So, oh boy, Jake Sisko's big Ferenginar vacation with all kinds of culture shock hijinks. This is going to be a good episode.
That could have been a fun episode.
But no. Anyway, Nog says, have fun playing tourist while I'm delivering this pizza to the Nagus. And Jake says, but I want to meet the Nagus. I told my editor I could get an exclusive interview with him.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have said something like that.
And then Nog is mad and says, you promised you weren't coming as a reporter. And Jake says, well, yeah, that was a lie.
Just straight up.
Luckily, he's saved when Nog gets distracted by some beeping from the computer. Something is jamming their comms. It's a bunch of Jem'Hadar ships, seemingly on their way to attack the starbase. Should we stay and help defend it, says Jake. No, says Nog. This is runaway time. And they warp off.
Yup, this the last voyage of the Shenandoah.
When have we seen the Shenandoah before?
Well, let's find out. The USS Shenandoah. Jadzia and Worf took it to the Badlands to talk to Lasaren and go to the Sukata system.
Uh-huh.
And then it's with the Rubicon and the Rio Grande when they evacuate Deep Space Nine in The Reckoning. Sure. And then now. So 3 times.
So it's confirmed that the Shenandoah was destroyed then. They weren't able to go recover it?
Well, this is the last time it's seen, apparently.
Okay.
So I think that's the implication, at least.
So, seeing O Shenandoah.
Maybe some Ferengi will, like, salvage it and it'll pop up somewhere.
Could be. So, unfortunately their signals are still being jammed. One of the Jem'Hadar ships saw them and is chasing. But Nog has a brilliant idea to escape. Let's fly deeper into Dominion-controlled space.
They'll never expect it.
Surprisingly, this does not get the Jem'Hadar ship off their backs, and it starts shooting at them. Nog powers up phasers and drops out of warp, preparing to put up a fight. Jake suggests he uses amazing Ferengi negotiating skills to make a deal with them, but Nog is like, no, I don't think that's going to work.
Like, you were on the station for months while the Dominion took it over. What about, like, the Jem'Hadar made you think that they could, deal?
Right. So I think they have pretty much one thing they want, and that's to blow us up. So Nog puts up a good fight against the Jem'Hadar, but things aren't looking hopeful. Until another ship swoops into their rescue. It's the Defiant. No, wait, it's the Valiant. A ship that looks just like the Defiant. And all the rooms inside look exactly the same, too.
Oh, it's the same class of ship. What do you expect?
How convenient.
I mean, so, and I think we mentioned this when the Defiant first appeared, but originally, Ronald D. Moore wanted to name the Defiant the Valiant
Ah.
after the SS Valiant from the original series episode Where No Man Has Gone Before. But they were developing Voyager at the time, or starting Voyager, and they're like, you are forbidden from choosing any ship names that begin with V that might conflict with what we are doing. So he's like, fine, I'll name it after a different ship from another episode of the original series.
Nice. Well, he got the Valiant in there, so.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, even Jake is like, great name. Which, okay, knowing that line is now much more amusing.
Yeah, Ronald D. Moore's like, oh man, I'm totally going to stick it to these guys. He's like, I'm the writer. I can write whatever I want in here. This will be great.
That's a much better name than Defiant.
Jake literally should have said that. That would be amazing.
Then Jake takes an exploding console to the face and is knocked down. Nog rushes to his aid, and then both of them are beamed out, and they materialize in a transporter room that looks a lot like the Defiance. I don't even know why they bothered building a separate set for it.
Yeah, it's so weird. When you see the two sets side by side, you're like, wow, look at this.
I think, yeah, the Defiant set, or the Valiant sets are right next to the Impak Nor sets.
And like the mirror Terok Nor sets that
they
build.
They got all three, and past, they built a whole other set also just for past Terok Nor. So,
well, yeah, because how else are you going to get like all the chain link fences on the promenade or whatever?
It's just easier to do it that way.
Exactly.
But they're greeted by a transporter chief in a cadet uniform. Acting Chief Petty Officer Dorian Collins is her name, and I guess she drew the short straw when they were handing out field.
Yeah. Like,
commissions.
How much must you have pissed off the captain to, like, he's field commissioning all of these officers, and he's like, I will field commission as a non-commissioned officer.
I will give you a field non-commission.
Yeah, like, what the heck, dude?
But yeah, she takes Jake and Nog to the bridge, where a whole crew in cadet uniforms is battling the Jemadar ship. Nog recognizes them as Red Squad, the elite team of Starfleet Academy's best and brightest cadets. Oh yeah, says Jake, I remember them from when they did that attempted coup a couple of years ago.
And in fact, one of the guys is in the episode.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a minute. But actually, before that, I want to go back to the previous scene in the runabout. So,
okay,
because of how they decided to shoot the battle in the runabout, they removed the front windows and struts from like the front section of the runabout, so they get the camera in there and like pan it back and forth and do all sorts of stuff.
Sure,
but that caused a problem in that if you watch carefully during the scene of the battle, there are several moments where you can tell like large sections of the front of the runabout are missing as the camera like whips around.
Nice.
So that's a fun note in here.
Nice.
And so I've actually brought the episode up now because I was like, wait a second, I need to see how true this is.
So yeah, the Jemadar ship is soon blown up, and the captain introduces himself. Tim Waters is his name, acting as captain under battlefield commission from the late previous Captain Ramirez. So apparently you can just battlefield commission someone straight up to captain.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah, if you say so.
I feel like there's a rule about battlefield commissions that you can't like equal your own rank or something, but I might be making that up.
I'd really like to see this guy try to give orders to like Worf or Riker.
Well, according to this, like if this was going by modern U.S. naval protocol,
okay,
it says Nog, a commissioned officer, would have immediately outranked the entire crew of the Valiant, all of whom were cadets. However, Ronald D. Moore stated that he based the premise on an 18th and 19th century naval tradition that an acting captain can only be removed from command by a flag officer.
Okay.
So I like he's like, yeah, I guess Starfleet like went back to like the 18th century for their naval traditions as far as commissioning or battlefield commissions go.
Sure. I mean, he could have just said, I made up this rule out of my butt, and I would have been okay with it, but...
Yeah, you know.
And he explains that he gave battlefield commissions to the rest of Red Squad. I assume he also, like, battlefield commissioned an admiral or two to get some people into Starfleet Command.
Yeah.
But he's interested to meet Jake, son of the legendary Ben Sisko, and sends him to sickbay to get his exploding console injury looked at. Then the first officer comes in with the damage report. and to report that they're having power spikes cropping up through the deuterium injector startup routine. So, yeah, I mean, we've all been there. You try to start up the deuterium injector and you just keep getting these power spikes.
Sure.
Nog asks if they tried recalibrating the lateral impulse control system. I mean, it shares some of the same power relays used for the injector startup routine. So, I feel like that's pretty basic, but... Captain Waters is impressed and tells Nog to go wait in his ready room. Meanwhile, in sickbay, Acting Chief Collins explains their story to Jake. 35 Red Squad cadets and a group of 7 training officers were on a training mission to circumnavigate the Federation. But then they got caught behind enemy lines when war broke out. Also, how elite does Red Squad sound when there's at least 35 people in it? But...
Well, we don't know what a normal academy class size is. That could be like the top 1% or something,
True.
I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Also, the acting chief... Ooh, at first I'm like, okay, so maybe in Waters' mind, like, if you're going to be in charge of the transporter room, then only a chief could have that job.
Uh-huh.
But she's also, like, chief medical officer?
She's like the doctor also.
Yeah.
Or she just hangs out
Does
in
Red
sick
Squad
bay.
not have any, like... Does Red Squad not have any, like, medical specialists in it? I guess maybe they go to, like, medical school instead of regular academy or whatever, but...
Yeah. I mean, it seems like they might not have their engineer either, because...
that's true, yeah.
They don't seem to know what they're doing. So maybe those people died or something in the battle. But yeah, so as she's telling that story to Jake, meanwhile, in the captain's ready room, the captain is telling the exact same story to Nog. So, when the attack started... They went up against a Cardassian battlecruiser. 4 of the officers were killed and 3 critically wounded, including the captain. So do some quick math there. That's 7 officers. That's all their officers.
I feel like if you went up against one Cardassian ship and it wasted you that badly, then you're not flying this Defiant class ship right. Like the Defiant would have like destroyed 5 Cardassian ships. And not taken, like, hardly... Like, maybe one console would have exploded, but that's about it.
I think there's something seriously defective with the consoles on this ship. I don't know. All 7 of their officers got wiped out. That's just bad luck. But yeah, so both their ship and the Cardassian ship were disabled, and the captain held on to life just long enough to impressively get their systems online before the Cardassian did and blow up the Cardassians. And just before he died, explains Waters, Captain Ramirez ordered me to take command of the Valiant. Or at least he looked at me in a way that I interpreted to mean he wanted me to take command.
I love the idea that it's like, he's like, here, you command the ship. Like, you'd think that he's like, get them all home or something would be the order, and not just like, go off and do whatever you feel like as in command of the ship.
So I will get them home. Eventually. Anyway, the cadets have been crewing the Valiant behind enemy lines ever since the start of the war, so for the past 8 months. Nog is very impressed with this story. Waters says they could use some help in engineering and promotes Nog to Chief Engineer with the rank of Lieutenant Commander. Nog isn't sure he's up for it, but Waters seals the deal by giving him a Red Squad pin.
Yeah, did you notice through the whole episode, the rank insignia that Nog wears is actually like Lieutenant Junior grade?
Yeah, he's yes, I definitely did note that.
Somebody messed up.
Yep. But we all remember how much Nog wanted to get into Red Squad, so...
It's true.
Finally. Did he actually get into Red Squad? I don't remember. I don't think he did he?
I don't think so, but he supposedly like made friends with a bunch of them, so I feel like he should be running into people he knows.
But anyway, Nog's first job is to figure out why the ship won't go faster than warp 3.2.
How they got out of like any fights when they can't run away at all is amazing.
Yep. You see, their mission is to collect technical data on a new Jim'Hadar battle cruiser. But the problem is that the cruiser flies faster than warp 3.2, so they're having trouble doing that.
So this is the big, and I guess maybe you could call it nitpick of the week for me, is that we later hear, like, when the Defiant gets a signal from the Valiant's escape pod, they're like, nobody's heard from the Valiant in 8 months. Like, they disappeared when the war began. So who sent them these orders to get information on this ship?
I'm assuming they got sent the orders shortly after Captain Ramirez died, and then they just never answered back. And then Starfleet was like, "Oh, I guess they just went missing."
If this new experimental Dominion ship has been hanging around the Alpha Quadrant for 8 months, it's not that new anymore. Like,
yeah.
I don't think that the information is going to be more useful than... And, like, we've captured Dominion ships since then and been able to take, like, their databases or whatever.
Also, I will point out that one of my favorite video games, FTL, that is the plot of that game.
Oh.
That you... the enemies in the game, it's the rebels who are the bad guys. So the rebels have designed a brand new boss ship, and you have to race to get the plans back to the Federation.
Okay.
And at the end, you wind up fighting the boss ship.
Do you use the plans to turn their antimatter thingies into wet spaghetti?
No. You fight the boss ship 3 times. One time it has a cloaking device, and it's really annoying because it keeps cloaking when you're trying to shoot at it. And then the second time it has a bunch of drones that shoot you. And then the third time it sends wave after wave of people to board your ship, and you have to fight those guys while you're trying to blow up the ship.
Wave after wave if it's their own men at you, huh?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It will eventually send everybody on the enemy ship to your ship. And
wow.
Yeah.
So if you just like hold out until that happens and you've killed them all, do you win that way?
Yeah, but that's very hard to do.
Yeah, okay.
Usually you just wind up blowing the ship up first, but actually I don't know if usually when you're fighting a ship in FTL and you kill the entire crew of the other ship, you automatically win the fight. But I don't know if that's true in the boss fight or not. I don't remember. I think maybe after you kill them all, it might actually give you a message that says like, it's like the AI on the ship is still fighting or something like that.
Ugh.
I don't
know.
I fought that ship like 10,000 times. I don't remember what happens. Anyway, back to this episode. Okay, so yeah, Collins takes Jake down to the mess hall for some coffee, and Jake makes chit-chat by asking her where she's from. She's from the moon. That's right, the moon. Only lame Earthers call it Luna. And then she tells a nostalgic story about how she and her dad would go out every lunar morning, hike across the Sea of Clouds, which is 444 miles across.
Sure. And
watch the sunrise, which is apparently so glorious, it's like meeting God in person.
Sounds pretty good to me. Apparently, I like the note, Ronald D. Moore would go on to depict exactly such a scene in the season 2 premiere of For All Mankind in 2021.
Oh, yeah. So Collins gets emotional at the thought of the amazing lunar sunrise and runs off. And Jake is just left thinking, wow, that must be a freaking amazing sunrise.
Yeah, I gotta go home and see this before, Earth gets captured by the Dominion.
Right. Down in engineering, Nog has taken the safeties off the plasma intercooler, the flux moderator, and the pressure control system. The first officer says, "You do realize you're violating over 50 safety regulations." Which, oh really? List them. It's okay, I'll wait.
Hey, she's the first officer. She knows these things.
Okay. Anyway, Chief O'Brien did it, so I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, you really have to hope that they haven't made any changes to the design of the Defiant class ships since the Defiant,
right.
the first of its model, the experimental version. Like, hopefully, like all the testing on the Defiant passed perfectly, no bugs were found, and the design changed in later iterations. It all works exactly the same, right. So this will be fine.
Yeah, and Chief O'Brien didn't design other systems that are able to serve as those safeties or something.
Right, yeah. You get Nog knows every change that Chief O'Brien made, right. So it's fine.
Or maybe he put extra safeties on? I don't remember.
It was one of those.
Something about the safeties. 1 was not the correct number. But everybody's sick of being in slow mode, so they decide to just go for it. Waters heads down to sickbay to raid the medicine cabinet and finds Collins still being emotional about those amazing lunar sunrises. Waters is incensed. He calls Jake up to the ready room where the first officer is like, "Did you ask Collins where she's from?" And Jake is like, "Yeah." It's like, oh my God, what a horrible thing to do, making someone remember their beloved home.
No, I love that, like, before Jake gets there, they've clearly been, like, interrogating the poor chief about, like, how this conversation went. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that made her feel a lot better about her situation when you were, like, an asshole on top of it.
Brilliant. Just great leadership on this ship. I mean, this is the kind of stuff Captain Picard did all the time.
To be fair, they are cadets, so, you know.
That's one of the reasons it's so hard to do a nitpick of the week on this episode, because it's one of those ones where just like everybody is so bumbling and incompetent, you can't really nitpick anything.
On that note, the original draft of the script was not Jake and Nog doing this. It was Jake and Kira who come across the USS Valiant.
Oh, Kira would not have put up with this at all.
The plot was predominantly the same, but more later explained, it didn't work because you couldn't believe that Kira wouldn't kick every one of their asses and take the ship back single-handedly.
This episode would be way shorter if it was Kira.
So that is why we ended up with Nog. Like, maybe the one character who could be convinced to go along with this.
Right. Then Waters gets up and makes a speech about how the Valiant and its crew are the most special and important in the whole Dominion War. And Jake has the great honor of bearing witness to their deeds so that he can write about them and immortalize them in history. But please don't interfere with anything. And stay away from Chief Collins. And Jake, who, in my opinion, looks like 40 years old when compared to the rest of these people, is like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that they're sitting in this scene... Or is the first officer sitting? I can't even tell. But he's like so much taller than these other people.
Yeah, I like there's the shot when they're all in a group and they put Jake kind of in the back, but he's still like a foot taller than everybody else. And also I like he's always almost hitting his head when he walks through the doors.
At no point does he really seem intimidated by these people. He seems kind of confused about everything that's going on. Like they're giving him this like big dressing down and he's just like look at it on his face is like, what is happening here?
Yeah, the looks on Jake's face this whole episode are great. But he steps out, and the first officer mentions to the captain that she's a little worried about him not getting enough sleep. And the Waters is like, don't worry about it. It's just because I'm doing so much drugs. And she says, oh, okay, and then leaves. And then Waters does some drugs. It
never really amounts to anything. Like, we get the one scene later where Jake's like, Nog, well, guess what? That captain you love so much, he's doing drugs. And Nog's just like, doesn't even address it. And that's the last we hear about it. It's kind of like I expected it to go somewhere. Like in at the last minute, Waters like is about to make a command decision and like gets dizzy because he hasn't slept in 10 days and is doing all these drugs. And that's like what takes him down. But no, it's just like, not relevant to anything really.
He's just a druggie.
Maybe it's just supposed to. This was the 90s, so it was just like, oh, he's doing drugs. He's a loser.
He didn't dare to say no to drugs.
Exactly. It's been programmed into all of us. We understand. If you do drugs, you're a loser. So this captain is a loser.
Jake runs into Nog in the corridor and notices his new red squad pin. And check this out, says Nog, pointing to his rank insignia. I'm a lieutenant commander now.
No, you're not.
That's a lieutenant. Yep. Thanks to that 18-year-old kid, I skipped 2 whole ranks. And I joined the crew as chief engineer. And then Jake is like, don't you have to deliver that thing to the Nagus?
I'm not sure that we have that anymore. I think that was on the Shenandoah.
Oh, yeah. The tide of war is turning because of this.
Yeah.
But Nog is very defensive of Red Squad and his new hero, Captain Waters. And then Jake gets one of those great looks on his face. Like, am I the only person who's not crazy here? Which he is.
Yep.
Then red alert sounds. They found the Dominion ship they were looking for. Jake and Nog head to the bridge where the crew is busy setting up a Class 3 probe to go spy on the ship.
So they detected the ship, but the ship doesn't detect them because they're still outside of its sensor range. So this new super amazing experimental Dominion ship just has like the crappiest sensors ever.
I guess, or I don't know. Maybe the sensors have to be pointed right at them. I don't know. I'm sure the ship sees them and is just ignoring them or whatever. It's like, oh, they wouldn't dare come attack me.
Yeah, doesn't care. Not a threat in any way.
Right. Jake is a little concerned, but then the first officer is like, nobody invited you up here, loser. But the probe is apparently successful. The captain gathers everyone in the mess hall and announces that after 8 long months, their mission is a success and they can go home.
So the guy standing like right up front in the scene, also the guy who, when we first came in during the battle, was like on the helm, is the actor is David Drew Gallagher, who appeared as Riley Aldrin Shepard. Man, somebody's family was a big fan of like old school NASA.
Right.
But he plays the same character here that he played back in Paradise Lost, when he proudly like tells Cisco about like all the stuff that Red Squad accomplished, cutting off the power and things. So
right, when they did that like terrorist attack that shut off the power of the entire planet.
Yep. So he's made it this far.
Yeah, he's. I'm surprised he came out of that unscathed.
Right? Yeah. I'm sure he will come out of this just as unscathed.
But yeah, so the captain's like, yeah, we did our mission. We can go home. Well, we could go home, but hear me out. What if we went and destroyed the ship? Dig it. The support braces on the antimatter storage system are made of Vitarium. You know Vitarium? I think we all remember those high school lab experiments where you take a lump of Vitarium and shoot some delta radiation at it. So we rig up a torpedo with delta radiation, shoot it at the struts collapse, and the antimatter storage blows up. It's a devastating flaw that the Dominion's engineers missed, but we bunch of college kids figured out after one scan.
Okay, see, this is... And this is one of those that's like, it would be a nitpick if they weren't, dumb kids, right?
Yeah, well, I gotta say, this is 100% college kid logic. Like,
yeah,
especially like, the top tier kids. You believe you're the first smart person who ever existed, and like nobody else knows anything.
Yeah, but my thing about this is that clearly they're not thinking long term at all, because. You've been sent to gather information on a brand new experimental Dominion battleship. Okay, yeah, great. Maybe the first only of its kind at this point, even though it's been 8 months. Terrific. So, what do? Instead of you found a secret weakness, like the port on the Death Star, and you're like, instead of taking that information back to the Federation, who can then like come up with a plan where like there's going to be a big battle and these new battleships will come into play and they can take them all out and turn the tide of the battle. Instead, so that you can impress people by destroying this one ship, you will reveal to the Dominion the weakness that you found to win this one completely unimportant engagement, instead of like, making it useful in any way.
Right. No, yeah, that would be a nitpick. But I totally believe that this character is that dumb.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Nog brings up the point that they would have to take out the torpedo's guidance system to put in all that delta radiation, which means they would pretty much have to fly right up to the ship and shoot it point blank. And Waters says, yeah, it's dangerous, but if we don't do it, Starfleet will have to send some other ship. A ship with an experienced crew, people with specialized skills, a mission plan backed by the expertise of Starfleet's top analysts, coordinated from a big picture perspective to have the maximum strategic impact. No, I think us kids should just do it on our own without telling anybody.
And then they'll think that we're so great, they'll probably make us all captains.
Right. The crew is clearly inspired, and Jake is like, can I say something? And the first officer says no, but the captain says, go ahead, speak. Well, says Jake, it's just that this is the stupidest idea in the entire universe. You guys have been watching too much Star Wars, probably while smoking crack. I can say with confidence that my dad would never do anything like this. And it's not because I have any kind of special insight into my dad's tactics or command philosophy, but just because I know he's not a totally insane person. Well, except for when he goes to that alternate 1950s universe, but I'm getting off point.
See, it's funny because I love that he's like, In case any of you didn't know, my dad's pretty famous. Just putting that out there. But I can guarantee, not being in Starfleet myself or really knowing anything about it, and tactics and all that stuff, my dad would never do something like this. And I'm like, dude, your dad has done stuff like this many times. When he and much, much worse, quite frankly. But I guess that would defeat the point of what we're trying to do here.
Sure. But yeah, Captain Waters is like, oh yeah? Well, we're not some lame-o veteran captain. We're Red Squad. Everybody in this room has a GPA of at least 3.8. We can do anything, we assume, based on the fact that none of the few things we have tried have killed us yet.
Yeah.
And then the whole crew starts shouting, Red Squad, over and over, including Nog. And then Jake looks around with one of his great looks that's like, oh, this is a cult.
He looks around, and then he just kind of looks down like, oh, man, what have I gotten myself into? I'm going to die with these idiots.
Right. It's like he's not even so much worried about dying, but just dying under such stupid circumstances.
Also, I feel like it's important to point out that, two guys behind Jake, there is a Vulcan cadet who also appears to be looking around like, this is completely illogical.
Right.
Hey, what is going on here?
Nice.
He is not chanting Red Squad or anything like that. He's just like, what?
Nice. True to character. I like it.
There's also a trill in here, but I think the trill is into it.
Yeah, I was noticing that a lot of these, there's a lot of humans in Red Squad. And I was like,
yeah, it's a little bit shady. There's also, I just noticed as I was rewinding, there's a Vulcan woman up right in the front row in front of the captain, and she also does not join in the Red Squad chant.
Nice. So these Vulcans need to do something, but...
Yeah, somebody go and talk to the captain and be like, Captain, this is not logical.
So yeah, the whole crew starts shouting Red Squad. Captain Waters gets a look on his face like, I am the greatest commander who ever lived or will live. Nog gets to work on the Delta radiation torpedo, and Jake pleads with him to see how dumb this is. That ship is twice the size of a Galaxy-class starship and 3 times as strong. And by twice the size, I'm talking length. So in terms of volume, it's 8 times the size.
Yeah, I wondered about that, because it's clearly the way it's designed, I buy that it's twice as tall as a Galaxy-class ship. It's hard to make a judgment about the length, really, but...
Yeah. Also, Captain Waters is literally on drugs. But Nog just yells that Jake doesn't understand. He's never put on a uniform, so he doesn't understand anything about duty or sacrifice. Which reminded me of a quote attributed to General George S. Patton. No dumb bastard ever won a war by going out and dying for his country. He won it by making some other dumb bastard die for his country.
So true.
But that's apparently not the operating logic on this ship.
So there's a quote in here from Aaron Eisenberg, who he feels this episode is critical to the character of Nog, which I buy. Nog's dilemma in the episode is, should I do the right thing, or should I grab the opportunity to do what I've always wanted, which is to become an officer? Now, when a Ferengi sees what he wants, he doesn't let anything get in his way. He has all of these rules for obtaining money, and that's the center of his life. Nothing really deters him from that goal. Nothing clouds that vision. A Ferengi won't allow it. So I applied that same mentality to these philosophical ideas of Nog's desire to be a Starfleet officer. After he joined Starfleet, I turned all of his attention to that one goal of succeeding and not failing, and not letting anything deter him from that. So I play Nog as a very, very straight-laced, perfect military guy, and in the Valiant, someone was offering him a chance to be an officer, and he could justify it, even if the justifications weren't correct, as Jake pointed out. He wasn't going to listen to anybody except his captain. That's what made the show powerful for me. The fact that Nog realizes it when it's almost too late, that he's made a horrible mistake. I thought it was great that the writers let him make the wrong decision, but that he was man enough to admit it, and in the end scene even gives back his prized possession, the Red Squad pin, which symbolized everything he wanted so badly.
I don't know. I don't know if I buy this whole thing going on with Nog, but we can talk about that in a bit. See, Nog accuses Jake of only caring about himself, and Jake says, yes, my main concern is that Jake Sisko is going to get himself blown up by a bunch of fanatics looking for martyrdom. He says he doesn't even know who Nog is anymore, and Nog says, I am the chief engineer of the USS Valiant, a position I earned yesterday by being the only person on the ship who knows how to turn off the parking brake on the warp drive. Then Jake drops the mic with a sick burn of, well, I'll tell them to put that on your tombstone, and then he walks out.
Boom.
Anyway, the captain is listening in on this conversation through a hidden camera, and Jake is quickly ambushed at phaser point and thrown in the brig. So I like that the captain just, he's like Mr. Burns.
Yep.
With his wall of security cameras.
He's just, and you know that, like, he's got everybody under his thumb, so he's, except for Jake, so he's probably watching Jake and just, like, cyber stalking him all the time.
Yep. Then I guess we have some time to fill, so we get an extended Red Squad battle preparation montage. But soon the time to attack has come. The captain goes on the PA and makes his best attempt at a St. Crispin's Day speech, and they're on their way. They encounter the big giant ship and put it on the screen, and everybody trembles in awe of its massive size, even though there's absolutely no scale reference and it looks just like any other ship against a backdrop of stars.
Yep.
Okay, says the captain, let's fly up real close and shoot them. So they fly up real close and start shooting, taking heavy damage in the process. But eventually they're able to shoot off the Delta radiation torpedoes, which cause a big fiery explosion. But much like the T-1000, the big ship emerges from the flames unscathed. The captain says, did we miss the struts? And the first officer is like, no, we hit them. I guess it's possible my understanding of the material properties of Vitarium is not as advanced as the professional engineers who designed that ship.
I mean, why was the explosion so big if it didn't work? Like, I don't get it.
I don't know. Maybe it's just, they knew that the struts were vulnerable or something, but the destruction of the antimatter storage system is not devastating to the rest of the ship.
Huh.
I don't know.
It really should be, as long as the rest of the ship is made of matter.
I don't know. Or maybe that wasn't the antimatter storage system. That was the, lighter fluid storage system or something.
That was the waste reclamation thing. It was full of, methane.
Okay, new plan, says the captain, but then his panel explodes in his face before he can finish. Then a bunch more panels explode in people's faces, and only Nog and Collins are left alive on the bridge. Collins wants to keep fighting, but Nog looks around at all the dead people and is like, no, Jake was right, this is dumb, let's bail. And sounds the abandoned ship.
This party's lame.
I see what he was talking about now. I regret.
I mean, do they actually check any of them to make sure they're dead?
Yeah, I know. I was like, wow, that's... Usually when we see that, it's not fatal, but...
Yeah, I feel like the captain more than anyone, I feel like he just kind of falls over at some point. And I was like, somebody should really check him, but whatever.
Yeah.
There's an explosion, and it knocks his chair over, but he just kind of rolls out.
They're all fine, but... so they run and get Jake from the brig, and then jump in an escape pod and fly away. And luckily, since they are main characters, their escape pod is the only one not blown up by the big giant ship.
Yep.
Also, luckily, their distress call is picked up by none other than the Defiant. And Jake's dad comes and picks them up. Nog and Collins are taken to sickbay. Jake goes to check on Nog and finds him in low spirits. Nog asks what Jake is going to write about what happened, and Jake asks, what do you think I should write? And Nog says that it was a great crew that got let off a cliff by a really bad captain.
I'm not sure that's accurate, honestly, but...
Yeah. And Collins wakes up and says, no, Captain Waters was a great man. And Jake says, no, he was a drugged-up idiot who got everyone killed for no reason. And that's how history will rightly remember him after I've written my story.
Yeah.
Also, that first officer wasn't so great either. But Collins says, no, the captain was great. If we lost, it's only because we failed him. And Nog says, put that in your story too. And then he goes and puts his Red Squad pin in Collins' hand and says, he may have been a hero. He may have been a great man. I mean, he clearly wasn't, but just for the sake of argument.
Yeah, I'll give you that just for this hypothetical.
But you gotta admit, he was a pretty bad captain. And then he leaves her to contemplate that. The end.
Yeah, The captain was a lot. That particular captain was very much like, I want to prove how awesome I am at the expense of all of you.
Right.
So, Apocrypha, we have one
Ooh.
survivor of Red Squad, right?
Uh-huh.
So, there's a short story called Dorian's Diary in the anthology Strange New Worlds 3. And Collins returns to Tycho City following the destruction of the Valiant, where she receives counseling from Deanna Troi.
Oh.
And a visit from Nils Barris, who you may remember as the administrator of Deep Space Station K7 from the Tribbles episode of the original series and of this series.
Huh. Wait, wouldn't he be like 250 years old or something?
He is very old, yes, but apparently still alive in this version, and he's writing books or something now. But the reason he comes to visit Collins is not because, he wants to write a book about Red Squad, because James Jake probably has dibs on that. But no, he comes to visit her because he is in fact the great-great-grandfather of Karen Ferris, first officer of the Valiant. And so he wants to talk to her about like his great-great-granddaughter's final days or whatever.
Oh man, I don't know how to break this to you, sir, but your great-great-granddaughter was the biggest idiot I've ever served with.
But also, in this story, internal affairs, which, yes, is still a real thing that Starfleet has, launches an investigation into the actions of the cadets and criticizes the decisions they made. However, the public perception of them is heroes of the Dominion War. So internal affairs is like, okay, fine, we'll overlook all of that really stupid stuff that you did. And gives her a new assignment to the USS Wyandotte. I don't know how you say that.
Uh-huh.
And she keeps a diary. Life goes on. So I guess Jake writes a story off of this, and somehow the story leads to public perception to be that these guys were heroes.
It's like, wow, those guys didn't do anything, and then they all got blown up for no reason? Wow, heroes. It's like, Jake's like, what? You don't understand. That's not the point I was trying to make in the story.
You think they at least brought back, like, the scans of that new battleship that, if the Federation was trying to get them 8 months ago, I'm sure has probably gotten them by now, but, like, at least brought something back from this experience?
Yeah, they probably have way better scans already anyway, but...
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Especially if its sensors are so crappy that anyone can just, like, creep up there and grab and, like, scan them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. One other note. The origin of the episode. Ronald D. Moore and Ira Stephen Bear are spitballing it, like, maybe there's a ship that's been stuck behind the lines since the beginning of the war, and the crew has gotten, like, rowdier and more ragged and embittered. It's just like a wild-eyed bunch of crazies that have been lost and out of contact for a long time. And then Moore is like, oh, but what if they were all cadets? And then Ira Stephen Bear's like, oh yeah, they could be like Red Squad, right? And that was the episode origins.
Nice, yeah. I got the feeling it was kind of like, I don't know, you can almost kind of imagine a premise of, a group of cadets and all their officers die and they have to take over their own ship.
No.
And then, the temptation would be to play that as like something, awesome. Like, you root for these guys. And then Ronald D. Moore is just writing like, what would really happen if that happened?
Yeah, because that would absolutely be like the movie version where, I mean, that kind of is the movie version of like the Star Trek reboot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like Kirk and Spock and whoever else are like these youngins, and then the captain gets something happens to him, and then the cadets have to take over the ship and save the day. Like that's the way the movie would play it. And so of course Ronald D. Moore's like, no, we're gonna like flip that on its head a little bit.
He somehow predicted that and then made a commentary on it.
It's just like in media, especially I guess directed towards young adults, it's always like the teenagers are doing something crazy and the adults are like, what? No, don't do that. But the teenagers always know better and end up being right and saving the day in the end. And so, we can't have that.
Yeah.
I feel bad for those poor Vulcans who like they clearly were not into this, but they couldn't object to, following the orders of their lawful superiors, and they ended up dead.
Yep. R.I.P. to those Vulcans.
The rest of Red Squad, screw them, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially that one kid who appeared in both of the episodes, and who's also the one who arrests Jake and is like super smug about it.
Yeah. What is that guy's story? I don't know.
He's dead now. That's his story.
Yep.
Jake should have like especially called him out in the article about it.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was this one real idiot, you know?
All right, so reviews.
Yep.
So what do you think of the episode Valiant?
I will say it's nice to see another Defiant class ship.
Sure. Although it was obviously done for practical reasons, but...
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's been so effective in the war so far that it's like, where are they? Like, it's a small ship. They should be able to build a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. And then we find, like, I don't know if this is the second one or what, but it's like, yeah, let the cadets have that one. We don't need a super effective, like, small battleship that can be crewed by, like, a minimal number of people as part of our war effort. Let them circumnavigate the Federation.
Right. Well, I mean, the war hadn't technically started yet, right? So
that's true, but but they knew it was coming.
Yeah, everybody knew it was up. They should have.
But yes, I've been waiting a while for them. Like, when are we going to bring some more Defiance online? You know that they're good.
Sure.
So, although apparently they still haven't incorporated any of the improvements that have been made to the Defiance, since Nog has to go in and do that himself. But anyways, so that's a positive. I like that. I do like that you pointed out, Ronald D. Moore is writing like what would happen here. Like what a bunch of dumbass college students would do. And we even Nog totally drinks the Kool-Aid on this. And we get Jake as the guy who's just like constantly like, what are you guys doing? Like, come on. Given how little Jake we've had for a while now. I mean, we had him in, was it last episode or the one before that? I mean, he's been, but you know, we missed him for a long time.
He's just off of his Pa Wraith experience.
Oh yeah, that's true. I like giving him the opportunity to play that, which he doesn't get to do. He's always been like the young guy. He's been the kid making the dumb decisions up till now for the most part. Like, I'm gonna stay on Deep Space Nine when the Dominion takes it. That's a great idea. And so, after he's been through all of these learning experiences, making dumb decisions himself, he gets to be the guy who's like, what are you all, idiots? Like, come on. So that's a fun aspect to it. Those are like the 2 or 3 things about the episode that I like. The rest, I hate it. I'm not a fan of this episode at all. And it's like painful to watch at times. And like, the only like regular cast members we really get at all are Nog and Jake, and Nog is being an idiot, and Jake is like struggling to swim upstream against the like river of idiocy that he's been thrown into, and it's not fun for me. It's like unpleasant. It's deeply unpleasant for me to watch like the dumb. And so I don't like watching this episode. I'm gonna give it in honor of Nog's rank. I will give it a lieutenant commander with 1.5 pips.
All right, nice. I mean, I'm a little conflicted because this is not Ronald D. Moore's best work, I don't think, but. And all complaints that you and we have said are true. And one thing about this episode is that, you know, it's just Jake and Nog, and they don't really do anything. Like, mainly they just show up and bear witness to this incredibly dumb thing happening. I guess, you know, Nog, facilitates it by teaching them how to do their warp drive fast and stuff, but...
Yeah, there's no good shenanigans, which you really need in a Jake and Nog episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely, we were way low on shenanigans for Jake and Nog, but I don't know. There's just something... the only entertainment I get from the episode is just watching Jake's reaction to everything. Like, he just sees this incredibly dumb stuff going on around him, and he's like, is desperate for one sane person to back him up. That like, this is nuts, right? Like, so I don't know. Like, even though it's like, I totally can get behind a really bad rating. It just kind of entertains me in that way. It's not a super great episode, but
Okay.
I got to put it a little bit above the line and give it a real lieutenant commander.
So 2 lieutenant commanders. Got
exactly. Like I'm pretty sure I don't like it for the reasons that they intended me to like it, but I don't know. Just Sirach Lofton really sells it for me. So, and as for the title, I don't know if we have much to say about that. It is. I also like that he went and named the episode Valiant. So Ronald D. Moore, I guess, is just really sticking it.
He really is. Like, there's and I got to give it this. Like, I remember what episode that is.
Sure,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those titles that's just it is the thing in the episode. So
yeah, I guess kind of like The Reckoning, except I think better than The Reckoning in that one.
I guess you could argue for some kind of cleverness that, is this a valiant captain or whatever? Or what is it, what is true valiance? But I feel like that would maybe be a little bit straining.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think it's I don't know that it's clever at all, except maybe in the context that Ronald D. Moore is sticking it to them for not letting him use the name for the ship. It's appropriate. It's memorable. I can't argue those points, at least. So it's fine.
It's a good utilitarian title, and I can't get mad at it. So
yeah,
there you go. But you have any final thoughts before we wrap up that episode?
No, I don't think so.
So yeah, that's our discussion of Valiant. Thanks for listening. If you like that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of Defiant, a title.
Another one named after a Defiant class ship.
And, Riker is in that episode, so.
Fake Riker, yeah. Or I guess he's still a Riker.
Right, yeah. I mean, he is technically a William Riker also.
That's true.
But yeah, you can find that wherever you're listening to this. All our past episodes should be wherever you're listening to this, and maybe future episodes if you are in the future. And if you want to leave us a comment, you can do that on YouTube. But my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Be well.
We look forward to seeing you next week, but remember, those hands were meant for something greater.